I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. I was going to say, we've had the pleasure of catching up over the last couple of weeks, so it feels as though it's just a continuation of some of those conversations as well.
Yeah, another weekly call.
Exactly. I apologise in advance if I mention anything about you being from Peterborough and the nickname of the Posh or Rangers in advance and so on. So,
No
um,
problem.
but it'd be great, and kind of like what I've been asking everyone to do on the G Wings is just give a brief overview of their background and everything else, because yeah, I've heard it before, and I'm forward to hearing how you've ended up in the head coach position at Houston Dash as well. So if you can let us know how you got to where you are now, that'd be great, James.
Okay. Are we ready to start?
Yeah, ready to go when you are. Like this, can you see? We've basically got the slides and background up as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a conversation. So yeah, all good to go, and it's just a conversation between me and you, just with a few people listening.
Okay. All right. So I've now going into my third year with the Dash, and I've worked for the Houston Dynamo FC for 14 years. I was the academy director from 2006 up until I took over the Dash. So I've seen the growth of the club from it just being one men's team to having the first team, a reserve team, an academy, and obviously having the women's program as well. So it's been an incredible journey over the last 14 years. Previous to that, I was the director of coaching for South Texas Youth Soccer, where I focused on coaching education and the Olympic development program. And when I first came to the States a long time ago, so I've been in Houston for 24 years. I first worked for a youth soccer club in town, Eclipse Soccer Club. So through this process over the last 24 years, I've seen the game grow in the country and in the city and the state incredibly, and managed to and been fortunate enough to coach at all different levels, from like U10s, U8s, recreational, all the way through to where I am now, coaching the Dash. So originally from England, small town called Wisbech, and grew up there and played for like Wisbech and the semi-pro non-league scene. So played there till I went to New Zealand, played in New Zealand, and then came to America in '96 and didn't return. And I've been in the country ever since. Fell in love, usual story. Still married to the same woman, got 2 kids, live in the suburbs with a dog. So it's all gone full circle.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you never came back to England. When I look outside, it's pitch black and cold and raining and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a good reason why you stayed out there for so long.
After the last 3 days we've had in Houston, we've had no power, no electricity. It's been sub-zero conditions. We've only just got power back on literally about 2 hours ago. So it's been a rough couple of days, but it certainly felt like I was in England, that's for sure. But yeah, it doesn't happen here at all. So it's the worst weather I think they've ever had in the history. Certainly in here, we've never had consecutive days like this. And the city's not designed to cope with it. So it's been a rough few days, but hopefully we're getting through it.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of my colleagues who you spoke to the other week as well is actually over there, and he ended up sleeping in his car as well last night because of lack of hotels and that. So yeah, it's not a fun time. But I suppose coming back on that, we do end up digressing on our chat, so I forgot to warn the attendees about that. But so one of the first things is, like, as a coach, before we talk about the English football to American soccer transition, how have you actually found working or coaching with those U10s all the way through now to senior domestic and senior international players as well that you have at the Dash?
I think it's all part of coaching development. And when I look at it, the amount of hours I've actually spent on the grass at all different levels is vitally important, and I think that's all part of your development. And the more time you can spend on the grass, working on your craft is vitally important. And all the different age groups have different challenges, whether that's the kids, the parents, as you go through the demands. But ultimately, at all levels, everybody's an individual, and you need to treat them all as individuals and try to get the most out of everybody and create an environment where I think players enjoy coming to training. They get better, but they actually love it and have a passion and enjoyment for the game. And I think that's a huge part of the coach's role, and developing that over the years has been really important for me.
Do you think like transitioning between the English game to the American game via New Zealand as well, by the way, I forgot about that bit, so I'm glad you mentioned that again. How has that kind of influenced your, not just your coaching practice, but I suppose your football stroke soccer philosophy as well?
I think being fortunate to be able to travel, you come into contact with so many different cultures, so many different people, so many different views on the game. And I think that's really shaped my experiences and has made me have a real open mind to everything and a desire to want to get better. So I think that's been a real plus for me. I think, looking at the game now to what it looked like in England in the mid-90s, I think the game's changed dramatically. And the game's continuing to evolve. So making sure that you stay up with the evolution of the game and training methods and ideas, I think is vitally important. And, you never stop learning. And I think it's imperative that coaches, regardless of the level, are continuing to push themselves to get better if you want to get the best out of the players.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And I suppose, have you seen an evolution within the amount of staff that you now have to work with to provide that kind of performance support to the players as well?
Yeah, one of the biggest obviously differences when you get to this level is it's not really about the X's and O's. It is about managing people, and that's, you've got to manage a team, then you've got to manage the support staff around. The support staff gets bigger every year and gets better, and that's us trying to improve and raise the standards. But the more people you add, that's the more people you've got to manage. It's different opinions, different views, different personalities, and being able to deal with all that in order to make everything run smoothly every day is a major part of what the job is really about.
I suppose given those influences now on like the different people that you work with as well, how have you found being a male head coach within the female game, particularly?
I think you certainly can't underestimate how fortunate I am and how lucky I am to have the job. And, being a man in the women's game, I think it's vitally, vitally important that, I conduct myself in a professional way. I have high standards, and making sure that we keep those high standards is vitally important. I think, and the players would certainly let you know very quickly. If I didn't have anything to offer, then I wouldn't be in the job. So making sure that we're creating the right environment where individually players can succeed, and then collectively as a team, as a club, that we're continuing to progress and push forward. And I would like to think the players know that I've got their backs and I'm fighting for them every single day, and on and off the field. And I think that's important. And when I look at now we're into our third season, the progress that the club has made and myself and the team, I think has been vitally important. A lot of that progress obviously wouldn't happen without the support and the backing of the owners, of the front office, and the president of the club. And again, when you talk about managing up is vitally important, and making sure that they believe and we have a matching vision of where this can really go. And then having the financial support and the backing of them to be able to push this thing forward is incredibly important. And every decision that we make is really based solely on the players. And is it going to benefit the players? Is it going to benefit the team? Is it going to move us forward? And taking on that responsibility is huge, and it is certainly something I don't underestimate in any shape or form. And the growth of the women's game is vitally important, and the progress that the Dash and the NWSL has made over the last few years has been incredibly exciting, and it's only going in one direction, and that's up. And then you look at the growth in Europe, it's becoming incredibly competitive. And the more competitive it gets, then, as a head coach, you've got to stay competitive within your field, and you've got to be trying to get better yourself and push people on. I have a good staff, a really solid staff that are also great believers in wanting to get better and push on. And my assistant coach, Twyla Kaufman's currently doing a pro license at the moment, and we're encouraging that. We want the best people around to be on the staff, and our goal is to push Twyla as hard as we can and push her as far as we can. And, hopefully one day, she'll be a head coach in the league. She may be a head coach of the Dash, but hopefully she's the head coach of a team, and we get to compete against one another. And, we continue to push this on, and we're already looking at, who's the next coach that we can bring in to build the staff and continue to elevate, women coaches in the US to go on and become head coaches in the league.
And one of the themes today is around that area of success, and it's an interesting story that you just said there, because that's about a development of a coach for you, which sounds like that is a criteria for success for you in one element. As a head coach for you, with everything that's going on within that chaotic bubble that is professional soccer, what is success for you in the different areas, or how do you define success, not just for the team and the players by winning, but behind the scenes, what's success for you?
I made it quite clear when I got here, we didn't have any US national team players, and for different reasons, but we didn't. And trying to make Houston a destination that players want to come to is vitally important to us. So what we can offer the players, on and off the field, and really make it a destination where players can come. We want to create an environment where they feel safe. It's all inclusive, and they can get better. And, we've now got 2 players that are on the national team. So that's huge progress for us. We've got other internationals on the team as well. And I think we've got 3 or 4, maybe 5 other players that have legitimate, goals of really getting onto the US national team. So those kind of things are huge successes for us. But then, you look at the living off the field things are vitally important as well. And obviously trying to raise the standards in everything that we do. We've just brought on an analyst. It's our first full-time analyst. And, these are small improvements that we continue to make to make the experience better for the players, to make that individual development and then the collective development, to have that success on the field and be competitive on the field. But also raise awareness about the team. Can we get more fans in the stadium? Hopefully when, the restrictions are lifted and we can get more fans in. Hopefully the success of last year carries forward, and we've captured a whole new group of fans that come in and see how exciting the Dash are, and look at the players and the quality of the players that we've got, and these incredible athletes that are in Houston that they can get behind and they can really support. So, raising the profile of the team, raising awareness, raising attendance, and making sure that on and off the field we're pushing the envelope and raising the standards every single day.
I suppose going to that point about, I suppose it's managing the entire club, and it's managing within the NWSL. There's 2 elements to that. Obviously, there's the challenges within that itself, but also there's the most recent challenge of managing a WSL team during COVID situations as well. So how have you found first of all, how have you found the last year dealing with that COVID situation? Obviously, some players coming back over to England, other players going around the country to try and get around the globe to play games. How's it been from a head coach's perspective?
It's been tough, obviously. Hopefully we don't have to go through another bubble and things like that. But if we do, then, we'll have to do it. But I think when we look back on it, the year, I think we tried to maximise every opportunity. This time last year, we only had 4 days of pre-season training, then we were locked down. And things like Zoom and stuff were just really coming onto the market, and we maximised the technology as much as possible. We made a huge effort in really trying to bring the team together and create a chemistry and a team camaraderie and these sorts of things that we thought was vitally important. And I said it, this was one of our goals going into last year was, we don't necessarily have pound for pound the best roster, but there's nothing stopping us being the best team. And if we can get that part right and really make it powerful, there's how we can get an extra 10% in every single game is through our team chemistry. And I think we demonstrated that throughout the year last year. So using COVID, as not an obstacle, but as an opportunity, we spent a lot of time, like I said, with the technology on Zoom, talking with the players, meeting with the players, and really preparing ourselves to deal with it in the best way. So when we got back onto the field, we were actually probably further forward than we would have been if we'd have just been on the field the whole time. So using that, but as we discovered, the mental side of things is much more difficult than it actually appears, and it's quite challenging. And making sure that every individual's in a safe place, dealing with them. Obviously, there's ups and downs in everything that we do, but managing that is vitally important. Using every opportunity to give them a chance to, whether that's to deflate the ball and get away from soccer, whether that's to get them focused and use soccer as an outlet. These things are, were and still are incredibly challenging as we go into this new year. The travel side of things, obviously we were on commercial flights. That in itself was difficult, staying in hotels, in the full series. But, the league and the medical protocols were very good. And, we got through it and everybody felt safe. But I think making sure that the players' safety is the most important thing. And, not risking that in any shape or form, and making sure that they're all okay. And again, that they just happen to be very talented people that are just good at soccer. They're not just a soccer player. And I think it's really important that, we look at it and we approach them all as individuals and who they are as a person, and not just look at them as a soccer player. So, their life away from the field is more important than what's going on the field. And I think if we can get a good balance, then you can see success on and off the field with the players.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always remember one of the top managers that I worked with always referring to as there's 24 hours in a day, 2 hours a day are on the pitch, yet we think that's where everything happens. The other 22 hours are like potentially the most important within that player's life and family's life. So it's really resonates with me, that comment as well, Jim. So, and kind of because obviously COVID's such a unique time at the minute as well, and it's challenging for us all. Like, looking forward, where do you think, in order to overcome these challenges and get success, where do you think successful teams, hopefully Houston Dash being that successful team, how do you think, or where do you think those new challenges will come once we get past this pandemic?
I think we're faced with challenges constantly. Like I said, the last 3-4 days in Houston has been a monumental challenge for everybody. But to see the way that the players have responded, along with the Houston Dynamo players, that they've started up a GoFundMe fund for donations to the food bank and places around the city to help people that are really struggling at this time. So to see that strength of person that we have in the club, not just on the women's side, but the men's side as well, and to see the players really working together, again, it really shows that the character of the type of players that we have here. And, while we were dealing with COVID, the social issues that are going on in the country, and around the world, that they're not going away, and in some instances that they're actually probably getting worse. But dealing with those, and our players are very, very active in the community and very aware of what's going on socially, and these are things that we have to address and we have to talk about. We have to talk about as a team, individually, and we have to try and make change, and we have to push that all of the time. And these things are vitally important, to the players and to the organisation, and supporting one another through this becomes really important. And I don't know what's around the corner, but there's definitely going to be other big challenges that we're going to have to face. But as long as we're all together and we know that we've got each other's backs and we support one another and we respect one another, I think that's vitally important. But treating everybody as an individual also means that they've got to have their own individual voice, and it doesn't mean that we've got to agree with everything that everybody says. But as long as we respect them, understand them, and we can still discuss it, that brings change and that pushes things forward. And I think I've been really fortunate with the group of players that we've had over the last 2 years that have been so active, so vocal, and so inspiring. So it's great. And when these challenges come, like I said, we don't necessarily even look at them as challenges. We look at it as an opportunity for us to get stronger and get better.
No, it's fantastic. And one thing I've always been curious about with a head coach is and it's great, the concentration and communication has always been around the team. How do we win? How do we get better? From your own perspective, obviously you talked about your family and living in suburbs with your dog. How do you actually manage in order to keep that success? Because being a head coach and sometimes turn into that 24/7 job, how has it been managing that to keep the success? Is it literally live, breathe, eat and sleep everything, or do you allow yourself to actually manage it to make sure you are fresh, so when you are working and deal with players, it's that work-life balance, I suppose, as a head coach in order to gain success? What's your kind of view on that, and how have you managed that over your long career?
It's
your wife's answer as well. Your answer, please.
Yeah. I think part of the success would be that I've been married for 20 years. So I think I've got a fantastic wife, all joking aside, I do. And her support is incredible. And she knows what I'm like and who I'm like. So sometimes it does take over everything and it becomes my focus. But having a strong family behind me, my two boys are really supportive as well, is vitally important. And finding that time to get a balance between, the soccer and my home life is vitally important. We try to be organised. We try to get the schedule set so everybody else has got their own life away from soccer as well. So being consistent on the schedule, being organised, I think is vitally important for the players as well as the staff. And finding that time, to maximise when we do have a bit of time off or a day off, to really utilise all of that time together with the family is huge. But looking at it after the success of last year, we talked a lot as a team, and the biggest takeaway from all of it was that winning's difficult. And when we look back at everything that we did in order to be successful, the amount of time, effort, and resources that go into it, it's very challenging, and it's easy to be average and poor, but we don't want to be that, and the players don't want to be that. So we understand that there is a commitment of time, there's a commitment of effort, and communication is vitally important. And sometimes, for me, the best form of communication is actually just listening, and listening to the players, understanding what they're going through, and then making a decision, because I'm not going to get them all right, but as long as I can make more right than wrong, I think we can continue to progress. But listening to the players is vitally important, getting their perspective on things, and then making a decision rather than just jumping in and assuming that this is right or wrong and those sorts of things. So, learned some valuable lessons through that over the last year or so. And the communication part of it, I think, dealing with the players and dealing with this level of players, I think my communication's improved incredibly. So not only am I trying to help them, but indirectly they're really helping me as well. So that's it. But it does take a lot of time, that's for sure.
No, I completely understand. I can imagine communicating and translating with someone like Rachel Daly, as we spoke about previously, takes a lot of that time as well with the Yorkshire accent. So
I'm her translator to the rest of the team.
Your communication skills, you can translate Yorkshire, you can communicate anything.
Absolutely.
So, I suppose, speaking of communication, given and you might get this reference, some people might not in this call, but if you had Mystic Meg's ball out and you were able to see into the past, the future, and so on, what would kind of be, if you were to go back to those days at Wisley Beach or Wisley Bay, sorry, what would you actually tell your early stage career self now? What advice would you kind of give?
Couple of bits, really. Keep fighting, because it's not easy, and you've got to keep fighting every single day. Strive to get better, so never pass up an opportunity to go on a coaching course or do anything to get better. Have an open mind and take in as much information and look at it and work out what works for you, what doesn't. And then the number one bit of advice would be back yourself, and have faith in yourself, in your own ability, and always back yourself and go for it.
No, appreciate that. Thank you. And I suppose with the different kind of audience we've got, because we've got people all around the world, and again, with your experience having travelled around the world in essence to become a head coach within the NWSL, would that advice you just given there resonate or be applicable to everyone else, or how would you recommend that people try and get to a position like yourself now?
Hopefully it resonates with people. And, like I told you, I was coaching 24 years ago, I was coaching under 8 team in Houston. And and now I'm coaching the best league in the world with the best players in the world. And it's been an incredible journey, but it hasn't happened by chance, and it does take a lot of hard work. But like I said, spending the time on the grass, really working at your craft is vitally important. You're going to make mistakes along the way, but you've got to deal with those. You've got to take responsibility for them, and you've got to move on, and you've got to get better. But like the coach education aspect is hugely important. It can only make you a better coach, and you've got to put the time in and the effort into it. And there certainly aren't any shortcuts, because if you find one and you get to this stage, the players will find you out really, really quickly, and that'll be the end of it. And so, like I said, being prepared, being organised, but you've constantly got to back yourself. You've got to have a clear vision. You've got to have an understanding of what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I think as long as you can look yourself in the mirror every day and say that you're doing your best you possibly can, and you're doing it for the right reasons, and the decisions are made for the right reasons, and it's for the team, it's for the player, it's for the club. Those things, I think, you'll be on the right road, and you just need a little bit of luck as well.
James, that's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you again, and thank you for all those insights as well. Really appreciate your time, and I'm even more impressed that you managed to get power in time to keep the laptop charged up as well. So thank you very much. And I hope everyone's safe and well over there during these times as well. It sounds like it's not a fun time in Houston, but it sounds like you're just getting over that period now.
Yeah, hopefully we're through it, and we can look for sunnier days around the corner, hopefully. So, but I really appreciate your time. Great to catch up with you again. And
likewise. And good luck for the season. Hope it all goes well, and good luck for the season ahead as well.
All right, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, James. Take care.
See you. Bye.